Namaste and good morning, everyone. Let's start our Thursday class with the prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhurbhuvaswaha, Tatsavitra Varenyam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat, Asto Ma Sadgamya, Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya, Mrityurma Amritam Gamya, Om Sehna Bhavtu, Sehna Bhunaktu, Saviryam Karvavai, Tejasvi Navadhitamastu, Ma Vidvishavai, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Mundak Upanishad. And we looked at how this great Rishi is trying to take our attention towards that absolute truth. No matter which name we call that absolute truth, but the qualities. So verse number 6, he said, from him are the Vedic hymns, the sacred chants, the sacrificial formulas, preliminary rites, sacrifices, ceremonies, sacrificial gifts, the time of the sacrifice, the sacrificer, and the works purified by the sun and the moon. From him also the gods are variously born, the celestials, the men, the cattle, the birds, the in-breath and the out-breaths, the corn and barley, though devotion, truth, self-control, and values of life. So he has enumerated all these in these two mantras. Quite a bit of detail, how from the subtler, the grosser things have evolved. And ultimately, this is what we know as the world of things and feelings. And when he says devotion, truth, self-control, these are the values we need to cultivate in our life. So now let's look at what else he is telling us about the absolute reality. Verse number 8. Saptaha pranaha prabhavanti tasmat sapt archishaha samidha sapt homaha saptaha ime lokaha yeshu charanti pranaha guhashyaha nihita saptaha saptaha. Sapt means seven. Prana. Prabhavanti are born. Tasmat from him. Sapt archishaha. Archisha means the flames. So seven flames. Samidha, fuel. Sapta homaha, the oblation. Ime means these. Lokaha, worlds. Yeshu, where. Charanti, move. Pranaha, the life force. Guhashyaha, in the cave of. Nihita, seated. Saptaha, saptaha, seven, seven. From him are born seven prans, the seven flames, sevenfold fuel, the sevenfold oblations, as also the seven worlds where the prans move in the cave of living creatures. 7 and 7. If you very casually read this verse, it will definitely confuse us, because we cannot take it as a literal meaning. It doesn't make any sense. But it is a style of the scriptures to use this kind of a code language. So it's almost like a great professor is giving a lecture and the students are taking the rough notes. An intelligent student will not miss even a word. So this is the discourse of the Rishi. So short formula, so that it can bring in our memory all that he has heard in detail in the lecture also. From the Supreme Self are born the 7 sense holes in the head. 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, and 1 mouth. 7 holes. 7 flames mentioned are the 7 powers of cognition that beam out to illumine the respective objects. So through the eyes, intelligence beams out to perceive form and color. Through ears, the vitality shoots out to illumine the sound. So each sense organ can illumine only its objects. From ears, we cannot see. From eyes, we cannot hear. A flame can be mentioned only when there is a fuel for it. Through the fuel for these cognition rays are nothing but their objects themselves. If there were no sound at all, naturally, we would not have recognized that we have an organ called ears, because ears perceive the sound. So in this sense, sound is the fuel that maintains the flame of sound consciousness shooting through the ears. And the oblations referred to here must naturally mean the knowledge gained. When the power of cognition shooting out through the senses comes in contact with their respective objects. So oblation is that which is thrown into the flames and which sinks down into the very source of the flames. And it gets digested over there. It gets burnt down. The 7 lokas in this beautiful metaphor, the lok here means the sense centers in the intellect. It is known to the scientific world also that there are definite nerve centers controlling the sense organs. So the vitality of these centers retires and they take rest in the cave of the heart, where the intelligence remains. When we are in a deep sleep, sushupti. So this is a pictorial language. It really adds the beauty to these scriptures and the added glory to the scriptures. But if we don't understand it properly, it becomes a stumbling block. Okay. So over here, 7, remember these: 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, and a mouth. Those are the 7. When he says, Ataha smudraha girya cha sarve asmat syandantehe siddvaha sarvarupaha atacha sarvaha oshdeya rasacha yen eshaha bhutai tishthate hi antaratmaha. Ataha, from him, samudra, the oceans, girya, mountains, cha means and, sarve, all, asmat, from him, syandante, flow, sindhva, rivers, sarvarupa, of all descriptions, ataha, from him, cha means and, sarva, all, oshadaya, herbs, rasaha, the ras, the sap, Cha means and. Yen, by which, eshaha, this, bhutei, the gross elements, bhut padartha. Tishthate, exists. He means indeed antaratmaha, subtle body. From him all the oceans and mountains. From him the rivers of every description. From him too all herbs and saps by which the subtle body exists, encircled by the gross elements of matter. Subtle body. Remember, the subtle body over here does not mean Atma. Subtle body means Antaratma is Man, Buddhi, Chit, Ahankar. That's Antaratma. So in the previous mantra, we have been told that from the supreme reality came all the dynamic aspects of nature, entire kingdom. Then over here in this verse, we have a more enumeration so that in our minds, we don't have any doubt that the inert matter might have some other source. There's no different source of existence altogether. It's only one source. So in order to remove any fallacious conclusion, this Rishi is indicating that even the mountains, the oceans, the rivers are all manifestations of the same eternal truth. Earth, when watered by the rivers, becomes a favorable field for the plant life. And that's how the plants grow. In the plant, that ras, the sap, when we digest, we get preserved. We can maintain ourselves. We grow. That's how our bodies have been growing, and that's how we have been cultivating. So food in its subtlest potency nourishes the mind and intellect, which constitute the antaratma, the subtle body. That's why they often say the kind of a food we eat, the same kind of a mind we'll have. Sattvic food, sattvic mind. Tamasic food, tamasic mind. That the rust of that food affects our subtle body. So the entire world outside and within ourselves have risen from one eternal principle, the truth. That's what he's trying to tell us. Verse number 10. Purushaha ev idam vishvam karma tapaha brahm paramrit etat yaved nihitam guhyam sa avidya granthim vikrati ih somya. So this is the last verse of this section. Purushaha, the self. Ev means alone. Idam means this. Vishvam, universe. Karam is action. Tap, austerity. Brahma, the absolute reality. Par Amrit, the highest and the immortal. See, Par is the highest, Amrit is immortal. Etat, this, yahi, Ved, knows. Nihitam, seated in Guhyayam, in the cavity. Sa means he, a vidya granthim, not of ignorance. Vikrati, unites. Ih mean here, somya. Somya word he is using for his student. That means a good-looking student. The Purush alone is all this universe. Karam and Tap. All this is Brahma, the highest and the immortal. And oh, good-looking youth, he who knows this, as seated in the cavity of the heart, he unites, or he unties actually, sorry. He unties Vikrati. Vikrati means unties. So he unties the knot of ignorance even here. Okay. And what is the knot of ignorance? Hriday Granthi. That's avidya, ignorance, kama, desires, and actions. These three are the knots of ignorance. Okay. Avidya Granthi. So, summarizing in this mantra, he is declaring the scriptural conclusion that the entire world of names, forms, feelings, ideas is but a manifestation of the Purush, that dynamic whole, absolute. To know that this Purush is the vital center, we need to gain the true knowledge of the self. If we look within ourselves today, our center is our false ego. Because we identify ourselves with the false. False envelopments, the coverings, whether it's a body or the mind or the intellect. We are not aware of the soul, the spirit. To rediscover ourselves, to be not the body, mind, and intellect, that we are nothing but the spirit center. We need to end all our self-made shackles, the chain of ignorance. So that's why he said, avidya granthim vikrati. We got to learn how to untie that. Because this knot of ignorance is the primal bondage under which the soul seemingly gets into this delusion and starts thinking that I am just a mortal, I'm finite. So in this scripture, again and again, he says that one who recognizes himself to be nothing but the Purusha and fixes his entire identification with it, ends all his ignorance and comes to live the godhood which is his birthright. So with this heartening message of hope, freedom, liberation, this section of this second chapter, so section 1, chapter 2, it ends. So tapasya we need to do. That's why he used the word tap over there. Tapaha brahm par amrit. Okay, tap, that is the sadhana. Tap we must do. So let's look at the first verse of chapter 2, second section 2. Avihi samnihitam guhacharam nam mahat padam atra samarpitam ejat pranat nimishat cha yat etat janye sat asat varenyam param vigyanat yat vrishtham prajanam. Avi means bright. Samnihitam, existing very close. Guhacharam, moving in the heart. Nam means name. Mahat, great. Padam, state. Atra, here. Samarpitam, centered around. Ejat, moves. Pranat, breathes. Nimishat, winks. Cha means and, yat means it, etat which, janiye, no. Param, highest. Vigyanat, beyond the understanding. Yat means this, varishtam. Varishtam is a being adored. Varishta, prajanam of creatures. Bright, existing very close. Moving in the heart. Great and the support of all. In him is all the universe centered around. What moves, breathes, and winks? Know it which is both with form and without form. The most adorable, the highest of beings, the one beyond the understanding of creatures. Over here, he's giving us a complete picture of truth, the absolute, and a direct method of flight for this glorious destination is pointing out to us. First, he says it's bright. Avi. Consciousness is considered to be bright in the sense that it is the light that illumines our thoughts, our ideas. This is not a physical, ordinary light as known to us. It is the consciousness, the life principle in the individual. The eyes won't be able to see without this. Mouth won't be able to speak without this. Bright. Then second thing he says, samnihitam, existing very close. The Atma in us is considered to be the closest to us. Why? Because it's very center of our entire personality. Compared to its nearness to us, even the body is a distant object. So it's closer than our body. We use the pronoun that to indicate something which is further than another object. That means little away. And something which is nearer to us, we say this. So compared to the Atma, even the intellect is only an object, distant from the Atma. So that's why he said existing very close. Okay. So intellect will say that, Atma will say this. So the center, the nearest one is this, the Atma. That's why it's called the subject also. Everything other than the subject constitutes the world of objects. So Atma is the center and the objects constituted by the world of ideologies, feelings, matter, they're all widening the circles of this circumference around the same center. So in the middle, the closest is the Atma. Then he says, moving in the heart, guhacharam. In the love, heart is the cave of intellect in which intelligence resides. And according to the Vedic language, Atma is the central light in the intelligence. Heart in a human being is universally accepted as the seat of all that is humane. Okay, that's a heart. We use the word a person has a big heart or a soft heart. So moving in the heart. Then he says, great and the support of all. Mahat means great. So the extent and the dimensions of the truth must be greater than the greatest. Why? Because it is infinite. It is supporting all. In the sense that if consciousness is removed, nothing exists. So the self being the very source of all, it becomes the cause for everything, whether it's felt or whether it's perceived. So the cause is the support of the effects. Just like a clay is the support of all the clay parts. Ocean is the support for all the waves. All the ripples, all the foams, all the bubbles, whatever we see in the ocean is supporting it. In the same sense, the Atma is here described as support of all. Then he mentions Pranat, Nimishat, Ejat, moves, breathes, and winks. Under these three classifications, he is bringing in our attention the entire universe actually. Rivers, waves, trains, cars, even though they are inert, they fall under the category of those that move. The concept of time. The entire kingdom of living beings breathes. And with intelligence, the winking starts. So that's what he's talking about over here. That the entire universe constituted of inert bulks that move the entire kingdom of living organisms and intelligent beings. So this supreme reality is to be known. And it should not be just an ordinary sense of knowing. Because we are familiar with the help of our sense organs, we know the objects which are other than ourselves. Here the knowing is the subjectively knowing. To be the subject, which means the awareness of experiencing itself. So in other words, to know the truth is to experience the truth. To be nothing other than ourselves. So this experience makes us aware that we are nothing but the truth itself. That experience. So this self includes and incorporates in itself the essence behind all that has form and all that has no form also. So over here in this verse, there's a subtle hint that mere withdrawing of our identifications with the world of object, or even our inner world of our own thoughts, emotions, we cannot make, it cannot make us reach the reality. If we want to transcend the formless world of thoughts and ideas to reach the eternal nature, he says it's beyond the understanding of the creatures. So if we think that by becoming intelligent, reading the books, we can understand it, he just very clearly tells us, Param Vigyanat Yat Varishtham Prajanam. And this is not a statement of despair or even hopelessness. Whenever these rishis that they say that spirit is beyond the intellect, they are just trying to tell us that the soul is the subject, which is the thinker in the intellect. The instrument of thinking have no vitality of their own to think themselves without the thinker behind it. See, just like examples we often hear, that nobody can ride on himself. So in that case, the rider and the ridden are to become one and the same. So it's in the same sense, these rishis declaring here that the spirit is beyond the understanding of creatures, because the spirit is the understanding principle behind all the instruments of understanding. So we are not supposed to get discouraged by it, but we got to keep on moving, keep on increasing our sadhana, that ultimately we experience it. That's why he said experience is more important. And experience comes with the sadhana. Let's do one more verse. Yat architam yat anubhya anucha yasmin lokaha nihita lokinacha tat etat akshram brahmsa pranaha tat vakmana tat etat satyam tat amritam tat vedavyam somya vidhi. Yat means that which, archimat, luminous. Yat means that which, anubhya, then the subtlest. Anu means subtle, cha means and, yasmin, in which, lokaha, worlds, nihita, seated, lokina, inhabitants. Cha means and, tat means that, etat this, aksharam, immortal. Brahma. Sa means he, prana life, tat that, vak means speech, manaha means mind. Tat that, etat this, satyam, reality. Tat that, amritam, immortality. Tat that, vedavyam, that which should be penetrated, absorbed. Somya, O friend, vidhi, know or penetrate. Luminous, subtler than even the subtlest. That imperishable Brahma is the abode of the world and its inhabitants. He is life, speech, mind, reality, immortality. This is the mark which should be penetrated by the mind. Okay, so it's like a full concentration only on that. Penetrate it, oh my friend. Okay, so in other words, just attention which is into every which way. Bring that attention into only that one. Subtle, what is subtle? Subtlety in philosophy is measured by its pervasiveness. See, solid is the grossest. It is grosser than the liquid. Liquid is grosser than the gas. And the truth is all pervading, and it must be subtler than the subtlest we can think of. So that's what it means. Anubhya, yat anubhya, anuja. And what is abode? We hear that word. Abode really means from which we go back when tired. That's abode, or when the work is done. So Brahm is here described as the abode of the universe. Ultimately, it goes back to that. See, just like birds, all day long, they are just roaming in the sky. At night, they come back into the abode. The same thing we do also. But that is a temporary abode. Brahm is the permanent abode. So out of truth came life and matter, and if they exist, and into truth they shall all go back ultimately. This is the point he's trying to make. This center of life reigning in us, this seat of consciousness, is to be penetrated by ourselves with our mind. So mind is the instrument given to us to penetrate into it. Mind, intellect are considered to be one and the same stuff, actually. Just remember that. And it has different names only to indicate its different functions. So do not get confused with the man and the buddhi. According to the functions, otherwise it's not a two different scissors, arms and legs, they look different. Man and buddhi, they don't look different. It's so subtle. There's no form like that. So with the intellect, we discriminate. With the intellect, we understand what is a dead matter from the dynamic soul. The intellect is used for that. To feel the eternal nature of the soul, which is all pervading, all perfect, all full. To know it, feel it, expand, and realize it. This is what penetration means. To become one with it. And we'll see that in the next two mantras, very famous mantras, it has been explained. And from these mantras, we'll see that the Guru's enthusiasm. Because there's a very emphatic repetition when he says, penetrate it. Oh, my friend, penetrate. Because he wants us to do the sadhana also. It should not be just an intellectual understanding. It has to be experienced also. So we'll stop it over here, and next week we will start with verse number 3. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaye Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much.